Okay, YouTube, I wanted to make a little video here real quick and post up. There's the green Monster S10. Of course, yeah, it's got a well-built 496 board stroke big block Chevy in it. Got some rust because it's covered up on my header, so I take some 4/0 steel wool and go over to them and knock that little surface off. A lot of people ask how I got this in here and running a mechanical fan and radiator. Well, I used the 9906 small block Chevy conversion mounts for a small block, and had to take a grinder to the driver's side mount because there's some casting bosses and casting areas that are raised on the driver's side of the block that you have to grind or notch for the mount to sit flush. Allen Grove alternator bracket. I'm going to put power steering on it this summer and take the manual steering off. My fan shroud, because aluminum's high. I've got a buddy that works for the county and he gets me street signs. Well, street signs are real nice, about 11 gauge aluminum, and I took some angle iron aluminum and riveted together and made a shroud. I used some foil tape to seal it across the top because it had a little bit of a gap. Other than that, that's it. 19-inch flex fan. The radiator's a 4-core, and I had to cut the core support out, and you can see there's the headlight, there's the radiator, how far it sets. Now with the 3-inch body lift, it gives me 3 inches more. The radiator's actually setting in the rubber mounts on the frame, and then it's attached to the core support up here in rubber. The core dimensions on this thing are like 28 3/8 by I think 17 inches tall. 17 or 18, I think it's 18 inches tall. Overall dimensions, counting where it bubbles out, you know, for the water necks, I think it's like 32 wide total. But it's a 4-core radiator, and I thought it come out of a 1-ton. Actually, when I went in and looked at the build sheets, I keep a book on everything I put together so I know what parts I have and the part numbers. It come out of a 71 K10 4-wheel drive with a 402 big block in it. But it keeps it cool. 195 stat. It sits and runs at 195 degrees all day long. A lot of people ask about the transmission. Yes, it is a 700 R4 with a 208. It is a monster in a box, basically. Kit that I put in it. It's got everything as heavy as you could get that Monster Transmission sells in it. I haven't really abused the truck. The truck's got maybe 100 miles on it since we put the big block in it. So, another question someone asked me, emailed me, is why I have air shocks on the front and air shocks on the back. Well, with the big block in it, it has a little bit of a rake. I use the air shocks actually in the front to pick the front end up about 1 inch. And also with the air shocks on the front and air shock on the back with a regular Pro Comp shock, you know, you've got all this weight with this light body. So basically it's like driving a beer can on a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive suspension. Actually the air shocks soften the ride a lot more. And when we put the truck together, I used 73 to 87 rear springs in the front because they're longer, so they ride a little bit better, and they do. Don't get me wrong, they do ride a lot smoother. But the back is also where I have an air shock. And yes, I've got that 18-foot tilt, but I used to have another 20-foot maxi car trailer, and I pull my little 2-wheel drive built-up truck on a trailer behind this. It just looks cool when you roll in to a car show and you're pulling an S10 with an S10. Another thing, people ask me about the paint job on this truck. The paint job on this truck is not perfect by no means. Okay, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack This whole truck was sanded down. It was blocked down. Other than over the last 3 years, it's got some war wounds on it. You know, people knocking their boots against the down here. I think that's where my son opened the door into the garage door. But it's painted with Duplicolor grabber green engine enamel. And yes, it's got like, I think 5 coats I put on it. I had a buddy make these up for me out of a vinyl thing he's got at home. But I did the paint job like this for a reason. Had a buddy, we built a truck similar to this, except his is on 44s. I don't want mine that high. I've got MS. It's too hard on me climbing in and out of them anymore, that big. And I wanted it to look like one of those little stomper trucks that you bought back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. You know, you put the little 1 AA battery in with little foam tires. That's what I was going for. The paint job on this was done for a reason. We painted his truck up real nice. Base coat, clear coat, put pearl in it, ghost flamed it and everything else. He drove it for 1 year. You can see the tires, being it's full-size axles under this, with a 4-inch back spacing wheel. They stick out quite a ways. Well, his truck, from down here all up through here, is nothing but rock chips all over in that nice paint job. Okay, you got a $5,000, $6,000, whatever it was, dollar paint job he paid to have done on that truck, and now it's all screwed up because the tires pick up, them big pick up rocks and shit and throw them up beside this. You take this truck down a gravel road, and basically it's like sandblasting with gravel. So it's rattle canned that way. All I gotta do is come out here, some 220, a little 400 or something, straighten it up, hit it with a little primer, hit it again with a little bit to smooth the primer out, and hit it with some rattle can, and the paint job's fixed. So that's why it was done that way. My son and I, we had to store it here behind the house on this concrete pad because I actually have a renter in a rental house, and they wanted to rent the garage behind the house, so I had to take everything out of it, and I put this over here. I actually had to stick my 2000 S10 that's got the 6.0 LS motor in it in storage. A bunch of parts I had in storage. I've got 3 big ass storage lockers full of crap that cost me about $300 a damn month. So, but our renter's husband passed on Christmas and she's moving, so when she does that, I've talked to the wife. We're going to do some rehab on the house, which is that house over there across the street with the brick on the front, the carport to the side. And it's got a big garage behind it. And we're going to take and move over there and then rent this house out over here. So I think my oldest son is going to rent this place out over here. He's wanting it. So there's a cab for that chassis I got that I made the video with the cab mounts. There's a cab that I picked up with a title that's rust free. The only thing I got to do to it is I got to fix these bushing holes, which ain't hard to do. You just take a rod the same size as the pin and you put it down through here so it goes through all 4 of them. It keeps it square. Then you can build this back up so the bushings fit tight and your door sits square. But this is going to be another little street truck for my wife. We're going to do aluminum dash. I'm just going to put automobile gauges in it and put a paintless harness in it. LMC truck wants way too much money to try to put a whole dash together for one of these trucks. But Here's the inside. I don't think I've ever made a video of the inside of it. Third row seat, leather seat out of a Tahoe. Of course, the roof's all sticker bombed. It's kind of a rat rod type. That's hence backyard built trucks. It is a truck that you, your son, or whoever you would build in your backyard under a shade tree. It's not fancy. It's not elegant. It just gets the job done. Gauges basically oil pressure, fuel level, temperature in the cylinder heads, vacuum gauge, voltmeter, temperature gauge at the thermostat, and the tach. Stereo shifter, transfer case shifter, and one switch over there is for the electric fan on the tranny coolers. The red one is blank, I believe, right now. The silver one, no, the red one is an auxiliary fuse box I got for stuff that I added onto the truck and there wasn't room in the fuse box. That's a blank switch, and that's a dead man switch going to the coil for the HEI. But like I said, it's just a simple build. Picture looking at underneath. It's a 14 bolt semi floater in the back. It's a corporate 10 bolt in the front. Cheap Summit Racing copycat Flowmasters, all 3-inch exhaust. Cross members out of an 84 K10, and I modified the ends of it. And the rear springs are Dodge Dakota, the heavy duty for the trailer towing package. That's about it. I know a lot of guys have emailed me about doing the big block swap. On a 2-wheel drive truck, it's a little more difficult. One thing is you want to go get that Jeep steering shaft with the U-joints and get rid of the rag joint. Now with my body lift, I had to make provision because of that one header tube. And I had to dimple, flatten that side of the tube, and then I wrapped it with heat wrap. Without the body lift, that runs underneath all those bends and you don't have an issue. You do have to notch the cross member. Okay, my suggestion would be to cut it out completely and then plate it and put a piece of 2x2 tubing up in the front. And then it gives you more room if you want to run a bigger oil pan or what have you. I've run a 6-quart truck pan on this motor. Where the header goes down through behind the motor mount, when you notch that out, that'll eliminate that. To the side of the frame right there where it makes the bend and it comes around to the cross member, you need to heat that up a little bit. Or what I did is I just cut it out and plated it back about 1/4 of an inch so the header wouldn't touch when it's running. Other than that, that's it. The only other problems you're going to have is where your factory A-arms come over the back side of the radius of the control arm will get really close to the header tube up here in the front. And you'll have to grind them back about 1/4 inch. Or go buy you a set of Global West tubular A-arms. They're kind of pricey, but you know, there's no need to half-ass something. This one here is where you'll have most of your trouble with your A-arm clearances on the passenger side. Now, as you can see with the body lift, I've got plenty of clearance at that collector. If you go 2-wheel drive, you're going to have to take and either notch the floorboard up there and hump it up just a little bit so it's not down against that collector, or you can take a hammer, a rubber mallet, and beat it up about 1/2 inch. And if you were going to do that, I know I hate header wrap. It rots headers out. It does. But I would wrap the collector. And these are those H8012 Patriot Clipster headers for a big block for a Camaro. After ordering and sending about a dozen sets back to Summit, these are the ones I found that work the best. Another set that works really well is like headers for an SS454 pickup, but then you've got to notch the frame right there where the collector comes down. You got to cut that out and put like a piece of pipe, like 3-inch pipe or 4-inch pipe, split it and weld each half of the radius into the frame to make you a cup so the collector clears. 454 SS manifolds work, but it has the same issue where they dump outward. If you want to run manifolds, the only ones I found that'll work are ones for an early Chevelle big block. This one dumps at an angle down, similar to that collector, and the one on the driver's side dumps straight down, somewhat between the back 2 cylinders, and they'll work fine. There's no issue with fuel pumps. I run my fuel line up through the frame, all stainless steel line, and I actually slipped it inside of a piece of 3/8 air hose, like shop air hose, and then I slid that inside of a piece of 5/8 heater hose, so it has a cushion to keep it from rubbing on anything. Optima red top, which that battery's been in like 4 cars, but that's pretty much it. Another thing I've heard is everybody says, why don't I have a big lopey cam in this thing? Well, I don't need a lopey cam. This motor puts out way more torque than what it needs to be in this truck. The motor's roughly putting out about 500 horse, and it's putting out, I think on the torque sheet, like 560 foot-pounds of torque. It was actually broke in at the machine shop on a run stand, so and yeah, it's a cast iron headed block. It's a 512 4-bolt block. It's got a set of 820 heads that have been severely worked over. Comp cam, comp timing set, comp lifters. It's got the full needle bearing roller rockers in it, corkscrew and studs and guide plates, which are stock on a big block, 3/8 push rods, and a Wyand similar to a RPM, Edelbrock RPM intake on it, and an 850 Edelbrock. It's been jetted up a little bigger, and choke plate and all's been removed. Two transmission coolers, 15 by 12. They're stacked. I've got a 9-inch fan blowing through them. It's a spow fan. Of course, you can see the leaves and crap up in here because it set for so long before it got covered up. I covered it up with 2 great big 8-foot drop flatbed tarps. Now, another question I had is people talk about crossover steering. You can do what you want, you know, to each their own. S10 gearbox. Okay, you want the one with the 4 bolts on the top because it'll turn a full-size axle all the way left to right. Drop pitman arm is for an 88 to 02 Chevy. I think I got it from Off-Road Unlimited. I made the drag link. I got a 3-inch super lift spacer in there. Blue Torch fab arm. It's got the 1-ton tie rod ends in it, and it runs to the driver's side. This truck steers. I've took it out in the yard when we did it and drove it through the ditch and stuff in the back and twisted it around. No point did my steering ever bind. No point does the sway bar, which is a stock S10 2-wheel drive. I've got it spaced. I'm going to change that with some square tubing later on. But at no point does it bind up at all. But I'll tell you this, you don't want manual steering on this truck because it is a son of a bitch to turn sitting still. One thing I also did, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a steering, I took a Jeep steering box brace and modified it and plated the frame inside there with a piece of 3x3 5/16 angle iron. And plated the frame inside right there and put that on it to help stabilize that box. But that's about it. I don't know about any other questions. I think anybody's emailed me on about it. Yes, it runs good, and yes, it will spin the tires. Fire truck. Every dog in the neighborhood's going crazy. That's my next project. New shed for over here. We bought this house a year ago, and we bought it and bought the one across the street. And yeah, that's definitely going to be on the to-do list. And anybody that's about the hood, I just got a 2.5-inch cow hood, steel cow hood, good mark hood that goes on it. I got a 4-inch or 5-inch one that I made, but I ended up sticking it on. It's gonna go on my wife's truck. She really likes it. But that's it, man. I made all my bumper brackets to raise my bumpers for the body lift, which ain't real hard. The back, you just need some angle iron, and in the front, just move your bumper up and bolt the bottom bolt of the bumper in the top bolt hole, and then put you a plate on the back side of it from there up to the other one. You're good. But that's it. I'll get some videos of us out driving it around this summer, I hope, if I get time. Last summer I didn't have time between the kids' sports and stuff at school and other things I had going on. But there it is in all her glory. Like I said, you can see it's got the shocks, the air shocks are let off right now. I let all the air out of them over the winter. But as you can see, it's got a little rake to it. People like it. I like the truck to set level. But no, this truck don't go off-road. I built this truck to drive on a daily basis on the street. So haters can get mad. It don't get muddy, and it don't go out in the snow either. I got too much time and effort put into this truck to go out and just get all rusted up and rotted out. I've got a truck for playing in the mud. It's on tractor tires, but this one don't need to get dirty. Anyway, that's it. Later.